aforementioned James Pogue. And I am honored to be here. I really, really am. And I get the chance to talk all around the country about different things and to different people. But it's always a special privilege when your hometown crowd asks you to share something. I think I'm familiar with maybe 75, 80% of the people in the room. And that's always good too, to know that people that know you think that you have something valuable to share with them. So I'll give you a moment to take out your pens and paper so you can take the notes that you wanted to take. This would be the time to do that if you want to. No? Okay, great. I want to thank Kimberly Felton, who's the head of the committee that put this together, and the rest of the committee for all the hard work and the wonderful food. I'm a big fan of Delta Sigma Theta and what they do. I believe that they happen to be one of the most powerful and integral parts of the community here. They are involved in any number of activities and have a lot of influence in what happens, and I say that because that's how, in part, I'm standing here now. I had a conversation with my friends who also happen to be members of the organization, and I shared with them that I thought that they should be doing more, that we can push an agenda if we choose, that we can change things if we want, but it's going to take effort, it's going to take leadership, it's going to take fellowship. And so, in part, out of those conversations, I'm standing here. Before I get too far into my talk, I do want to acknowledge someone in the audience, one of my best friends and my confidant. She's sitting over there somewhere. I'm sure she's upset with me as we speak. But my elder sister, Shauna Reed, hey. It's always good to have family come to support you when you can. She and I have been very fortunate that by hook or by crook, we've been able to live in the same state for many years. The rest of our family is pretty spread out. There's 5 of us, 5 siblings. I have a sister in South Carolina, a brother in Phoenix, and a sister who just moved from Texas back to Arizona. So we're all pretty spread out, and it's good to be able to connect with her and her family. And I'm sure those of you that have family close can appreciate that, can appreciate what that means. I'm also excited to be here because of today's theme. And as a subset to that theme, my title of the speech today, or the talk, is we have to be able to keep more than one idea in our heads at the same time. I was talking with some friends and colleagues just a few nights ago, and we were on the verge, I would say, on the verge of developing an agenda for improving the community. The kind of agenda that I believe people in this room would have been proud of. But we kept getting distracted by the butterflies on the wall, by the word that needed to be more clearly defined, by the attitudinal comment that somebody gave, by the lack of understanding of something, or by the need for someone to say something when they thought it was the right time and the right place. So in an effort to keep us focused, as I share with you what I'm going to share, I'm going to ask you to practice some call and response with me. For those of us, it's been a while since we've been in a church house, I'm going to ask you to turn to your neighbor and say, neighbor, neighbor. Okay, that's call and response. That's how it works. That's how it works. So your phrase is going to be, we have to be able to keep more than one idea in our heads at the same time. So, we have to be able to keep more than one idea in our heads at the same time. One more time. We have to be able to... All by yourselves. And... Like being a drum major grandma works. She said, I just leave that. That's how it works. Okay. In our society and communities and family, distractions are commonplace, so I'm hoping this is going to help us out a bit. So my part, just because you have something to say doesn't mean you get to say it. See, that's your part. So your part comes in after our part. Call and response. Okay. One more again. Just because you have something to say doesn't mean you get to say it.
We have to be able to keep
we go. Just because you are loud doesn't make you right. Just because I say something stupid doesn't make me stupid. Just because my opinion on a subject sounds sexist doesn't make me one. Oh, somebody didn't believe that. Somebody didn't believe it. It's likely as not I may say something silly, right? It's likely as not later on today somebody might say something silly. Your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, your girl, your children, your grandparents, your pastor, your deacon, your doctor might say something silly. It doesn't make him an idiot. Your turn. Just because I don't open my mouth and speak on a subject does not mean I don't know anything about it. Your part has concluded. Thank you. Give yourselves a hand. So in our sort of soundbite society, we've been programmed to develop an opinion of a person, a place, or a thing based on a hint of information. It's been an unbelievable way of creating distractions to progress. That all we have to do is think that we know something, have something flit across, and we're off and running in a different direction and no longer focused on the topic at hand. I was listening to NPR. Any NPR fans in the house? There was a time when I thought NPR was for other people. Then I realized it was for me. So I was listening to NPR on Friday, and I heard about a study. If you heard this, then, work with me on it. It was a study about who takes better care of their spouse in heterosexual couples when they have a cold, the male or the female. Female. Yes. So somebody felt that. Now, the evidence suggested that men would put up with their wives an average of 19 hours before they're like, okay. So, just a little crowd participation. Hands for those that feel like the ladies were above 19 hours. Oh, sure. Hands for those that feel like the ladies were below 19 hours. The evidence suggested from this study, I'm not sure how many people they asked, but it was a study nonetheless. It was on NPR, it's a reputable place. That wives were only able to handle their husbands for about 13 hours before they were through with them and their alleged cold. What was also evident in the study was that men had a tendency to play up their symptoms more than the ladies did. Now I see folk nodding their heads, mostly women folk, amen. But let's reflect back on we have to be able to keep more than one idea in our heads at the same time and add together these three pieces of information. The men folk were able to put up with their lady friends and spouses for 19 hours. The ladies for only 13 hours. The men did more and trying to do more with their symptoms. So even though they tried to exacerbate their symptoms, oh, I'm sick, Lord help me, they can only get 13 hours of care by comparison. 6 hours less, even with the extra stuff that they were doing. We have to be able to keep more than one idea in our heads at the same time. What does that mean? What does it mean? Because when I said that men play up their symptoms, I saw a lot of heads shaking. Only 13 hours versus 19. Having been one that played up his symptoms. There's a story in Exodus 3 and 4 that talks about the burning bush. It's where Moses and God were having a conversation. And God said, Moses, I need you to lead the people out of slavery. Moses was terrified. And God said, I will be with you. I got you. You're my guy. Moses says, I don't know. I don't know if I can talk. I'm nervous about it. God said, you're my guy. I got you. You can do this. Moses, I just don't know. God said, okay, you bring your brother Aaron with you. Aaron can do the talking, and you can do the negotiating. You can have the staff, you can work the conduit through which these miracles I will perform will happen. So Aaron joined him to speak for him. Every once in a while, we're selected to speak for our people, whomever our people may be. The composition may change. It may be your student government group in high school. It may be a group of women, a group of men at church, a nonprofit. It could be your business, a committee, whatever it may be. Every once in a while, we're selected to speak for our people. And sometimes we don't think we're ready. And so we're sometimes given somebody to work with us. We have leaders. And leaders get a lot of light shined on them and a lot of rocks thrown at them. But let's not forget about the Aarons of the world. Moses has a movie coming out. Aaron is not even on the subtitle. Both Moses and Aaron have a story to tell. The question is, will we listen? My story today is not just about leaders, but about followers. It's about making a difference and what it takes to do so. It's about challenge and support. In our local version of Exodus, it was the goddesses of Delta Sigma Theta who asked a local soothsayer, that would be me, to come and speak to y'all. Over the last several weeks, I've been talking to various Aarons to help me find the right words to share. I've gone back and forth on how I wanted to approach this and settled on a very, very local approach. Today's theme, respecting the voices of our men. In there's an implication that there are times when the voices of men are not respected, are not listened to, are not heard. I think that that's true. But it doesn't mean that women's voices are always respected. Because we have to be able to keep more than one idea in our heads at the same time. Speaking up for men is not speaking down at women. Speaking up for women is not ignoring the needs of men. What we have to do is keep more than one idea in our heads at the same time. I've lived in this community for several years and visited many others, and in my travels and conversations with my male friends, you might be surprised how often they do say they have not been heard. They have not been respected. They have not been listened to by people that love and care for them the most. I told this story a couple days ago. I'll tell it again here. A friend of mine, one of my best friends, his name is Jason. We were hanging out playing pool after the Super Bowl last year. And we were waiting our turn to get to the pool table, and he was talking with someone, a young lady. And her girlfriend said, hey, we've got a spot over at the bar. Come on, to her girlfriend. And she says to her girlfriend, I'll be right there. I'm going to finish talking to Jason. She says, no, come on, let's go. She says, I'll be there in a second. She turned to my friend Jason, who happens to be an African-American guy. She happens to be a white lady. And she says, my friend doesn't like it when I talk to black guys. She says, I apologize for that, and she went on and hung out with her. Jason, who is a lot like me, whatever you interpret me to be, says to me, dude, I don't know what makes people think that I would choose to be this if I had a choice. I'm tired of this. What makes people think that I would choose to be a black man if I had the choice? And I wanted to say to him, you are a fool. That's what I wanted to say, but he's my friend. And I needed to respect his voice. So we talked about, what do you mean by that? Man, if I had to choose to be born, wouldn't I want it to be as good for me, as many opportunities as I possibly could have for me and my children and my children's children? Wouldn't I want that? I said, sure, that's what we all want. Then why would I choose to be a black man in 2013? I was like, maybe we should just play pool. I wasn't ready for this after the Super Bowl. Denver Broncos lost, that's my team. But I think there's some value in the comment. I think it suggests a weariness that even the smartest, the wisest, the strongest of us have. That after some time, how much of a burden can broad shoulders bear? Before you say, what makes people think that I would choose this? So we played pool. We haven't talked about it since. Although I did tell him I was going to share a story. In today's society, broadly, in this society, locally, I'm going to guess even in this room, there are those of us who are highly skilled at the art of tearing people down. We live in a place where we celebrate this skill. On Facebook with likes, retweets, YouTube posts. We build people up and tear them down at the same time. Some of us are so smooth and good at it. I didn't know I was tore up until I got outside and out the conversation. And we do so for the benefit of entertainment sometimes and gossip at others. Imagine if we could sit together in a room, in this room, a room like this one, and discuss instead the tearing up and down of people, instead discuss who ought to be the person leading us, the persons leading us. I don't pretend that everyone is perfect. I know that all of us are flawed. In the midst of those flaws, there is beauty somewhere oftentimes. And if we can find that beauty in those people, can we then also find the leaders that we need, the followers that we need, the errands that we need to push forward? The people that we want to speak for us. The people we want to speak to us. In politics, they call that vetting a candidate. I believe that we can do this. As I mentioned a few days ago, I thought I saw it happen. Almost. The room of folks I mentioned earlier, this room of about 15, 20 people, we started off by discussing the thoughts around the Cosby allegations. We moved on to talking about the death of black men and boys. We talked about education, policing, politics, and the importance of balancing both male and female needs in the community. We talked about ethnicity. We talked about all of these things in a very complicated and deep way. It was motivating. Some might say spiritual. It was a complicated conversation full of passion, intellect, informed by the minds of colleagues and some strangers. It was a safe place to say, I believe this, I disagree, I agree. A place where you could put your idea out there and it could get beat up and you may not. It was a sight to see. The kind of conversation we want all of our children and grandchildren to be able to participate in. Some of the attendees of that are in this room now. For the record, the conversation started around about 1 a.m. and ended somewhere around 3:15, 3:30. Had to put people out. Someone in the room said over and over again, it is the people in this room that have the power to make it happen. Over and over again it was said, and I think the same is true right here, right now. We wonder and think how, when, why. The people in this room right now are the ones that can do what needs to be done if we choose to do it. So my question is, are we ready to do what's next? Some of us have been fighting the good fight for a while. Some of us can barely spell fight because we don't know what that is. Some of us are in between. But we're all valuable and necessary. Are we ready to sit down and vet the ideas and leaders that we want? Are we ready to be honest about our skills and our flaws? And if selected, are you ready to lead? Are you ready for your Moses moment? In the case that you're not the Moses, are you ready for your Aaron moment? Are you ready to help with the heavy lifting? Are you ready to follow? Because that's important too. Leaders, I'm sure as you know, have a great responsibility. The yoke of leadership, they say, is heavy. And it requires more than just a desire to lead. It also requires a vision to do so. But it also requires the support of followers. The idea of America is a complicated one. So is the idea of a community. America is more than freedom of speech. It is also being responsible for what you say. What do we need to be saying in this community right now? America is more than the right to bear arms. You should also know for what reason you are bearing arms and what you might be fighting. So what are we fighting in this community? America is more than civil rights. It is more than gender equality. It is more than the pursuit of happiness. This community is more than those things too. It is all of those things at least. But it is hollow without followers to make it happen. During our talk the other night, a connection between the